ash falls like snow over the blackened bones of the city. It coats the eyelashes of the survivors who stand, shivering in the brutal September wind, staring up at the sacred rock. The year is 480 before the Common Era. The Acropolis is a smoking, shattered ruin. The air is thick with the sickening stench of burning cedar, scorched limestone, and the charred remains of offerings left to a goddess who seemingly abandoned her people. Where the great temple was meant to rise, there is only rubble, deliberately smashed by the retreating Persian army of Xerxes. For generations, the Athenians have been told their city is divinely protected, an impenetrable fortress of civilization. But look at it now. Smashed columns bleed soot into the sacred earth. The ancient olive tree of Athena, the ultimate symbol of life and divine favor, is nothing but a twisted, smoldering stump. How does a civilization recover from the complete and total erasure of its identity? How do you look at the utter annihilation of your most sacred space and decide not just to rebuild, but to engineer a structure so impossibly perfect that it will mock the very concept of time itself? What madness, what terrifying audacity drives a traumatized people to attempt the physical manifestation of perfection? To understand the construction of the Parthenon, one must first taste the ash of its predecessor. The Athenians do not immediately clear the rubble. In a collective act of psychological endurance, they leave the desecrated ruins exactly as they are for over 30 years. It is an open wound left deliberately unbandaged. Every time a citizen walks through the lower city, they are forced to look up and see the blackened, broken columns silhouetted against the blinding blue of the Aegean sky. It is a daily, agonizing reminder of their vulnerability. They swear the oath of Plataea, a solemn, blood-bound vow never to rebuild the sanctuaries burned by the barbarians, but to leave them as a perpetual memorial of the invaders' impiety. This trauma becomes the crucible of the Athenian soul. It ferments, it mutates, it turns from paralyzing grief into a ruthless imperial ambition. Athens does not just want to survive, it wants to dominate. It forms the Delian League, ostensibly a mutual defense pact against future Persian aggression, but year by year, the line between ally and subject blurs. The League's treasury, initially kept on the neutral sacred island of Delos, swells with the tribute of hundreds of city-states. And then, in 454 before the Common Era, under the pretext of a rumored Persian threat, a single man orchestrates the relocation of that massive treasury from Delos to the Acropolis of Athens. That man is Pericles. To understand the Parthenon, one must understand the impenetrable, aristocratic mind of Pericles. He is not a man of the people, though he champions their democracy. He is born into the Alcmeonide, a profoundly wealthy and ancient family carrying a legendary, terrifying curse. Generations ago, an ancestor committed sacrilege by executing political rivals who had sought sanctuary at the altar of Athena. For this, the family is forever tainted. It is said that before Pericles was born, his mother, Agariste, dreamt she gave birth to a lion. The child who arrived was physically striking, save for an unusually elongated, disproportioned head, a trait his political enemies would mercilessly mock in the comic theaters, calling him Squillhead. Perhaps it is this physical oddity, or perhaps it is the crushing weight of the family curse that makes Pericles so utterly aloof. He does not attend banquets. He does not walk through the bustling agora to gossip. He speaks rarely, but when he does, his rhetoric is likened to the thunder and lightning of Zeus himself. He has been tutored by the radical philosopher Anaxagoras, a man who believes the sun is not a god, but a massive burning rock. From Anaxagoras, Pericles learns a cold, rational detachment from superstition. He envisions an Athens that is the undisputed, glittering school of Hellas. And he decides that the time for mourning is over. The oath has been fulfilled. The ruins must be cleared. In their place, he will build a monument of such staggering scale, such mathematically horrifying precision, that it will justify the Athenian Empire. The political fight is utterly vicious. Thucydides of Elopis, a staunch conservative and political rival, leads the opposition in the assembly. He stands before the raucous crowd of Athenian citizens and screams that Pericles is treating the city like a vain woman, hanging precious stones and thousand-talent temples around her neck, using money stolen from their allies. The allies are outraged. They pay for a navy to keep the Persians at bay, not to finance a colossal vanity project in Athens. The tension in the assembly is a physical weight, the air hot with the breath of thousands of angry, shouting men. But Pericles is a master of mass psychology. He steps up to the bema, the speaker's platform. He waits for the noise to die down. The silence stretches, taut as a bowstring. He tells them with icy, unwavering conviction that Athens owes no account of the money to her allies, so long as Athens provides the defense for which they pay. He argues that this building program will employ every stonemason, every carpenter, every rope maker, every gold beater in the city. It is an economic stimulus of unprecedented scale. He turns to the crowd and declares that if they refuse to fund it from the public treasury, he will pay for it himself, but he will inscribe only his own name on the monuments. The crowd erupts. Driven by a volatile mix of greed, civic pride, and raw imperial arrogance, they vote to unleash the funds. The greatest, most obsessively precise architectural endeavor in human history is authorized. The year is 447. Pericles knows he cannot execute this alone. He appoints his closest friend, the artistic genius Phidias, as the general overseer. Phidias is a man obsessed with the divine. He sees the gods not in myth, but in proportion, in the gleam of ivory and the heavy, warm luster of gold. But Phidias is a sculptor, not an architect. For the design of the temple itself, Pericles summons Ictinus and Callicrates. These are not mere builders, they are philosophers of stone. Ictinus is deeply steeped in Pythagorean mysticism, the belief that the universe is fundamentally composed of numbers and ratios. He believes that absolute beauty is not subjective, but an objective mathematical truth waiting to be uncovered. He intends to build a temple that is a physical manifestation of this cosmic harmony. The chosen material is Pentelic marble. It is not found in the city. It slumbers deep within the flanks of Mount Pentelicus, 16 kilometers to the northeast of Athens. The operation to extract it is a nightmare of blood, sweat, and screaming timber. Imagine the scene at the quarry. The air is choked with fine white dust that coats the throats and lungs of the quarrymen. The deafening, relentless ringing of iron chisels striking stone echoes down the mountain valleys from dawn until dusk. These men do not have explosives. They do not have steam power. They seek out natural faults in the solid rock face. Into these tiny fissures, they drive wooden wedges. Then they carry buckets of water up the treacherous slopes and soak the wood. The wood absorbs the water, expands with terrifying, inexorable force, and eventually, with a sound like a thunderclap, the mountain cracks. Massive, raw blocks of white marble, some weighing up to 20 tons, are separated from the bedrock. But extracting the stone is only the beginning of the agony. Now these colossal weights must be moved down a steep, treacherous mountain face. A single slip means a block will careen out of control, crushing dozens of men into pulp. They construct massive wooden sledges. The blocks are lashed down with ropes thick as a man's arm. To control the descent, the sledges are tethered to deeply anchored wooden posts using complex pulley systems. The friction is so intense that the ropes frequently smoke and catch fire, requiring men to constantly douse them with water or oil. It is a delicate, terrifying dance with gravity. Once at the base of the mountain, the blocks are loaded onto heavily reinforced ox carts. The journey to Athens takes 2 full days. Imagine the immense groaning processions, hundreds of carts, each pulled by teams of up to 30 oxen. The beasts strain, their muscles bunching, their flanks slick with sweat, their hooves slipping on the dirt roads. The air is filled with the cracking of whips, the shouts of the drovers, and the agonizing creak of massive wooden wheels bending under the impossible load. Over 100,000 tons of marble must make this journey. The sheer logistical orchestration is mind-bending. Upon reaching the base of the Acropolis, the greatest challenge awaits. The rock is a sheer plateau. How do you lift 20-ton blocks up a towering cliff face? The engineers construct massive ramps and deploy an arsenal of wooden cranes equipped with intricate blocks and tackles. The air above the city becomes a forest of towering wooden beams, groaning under the tension of heavy hemp ropes. On the summit, the site is a chaotic, deafening ant colony of activity. Hundreds of artisans, slaves, medics, and citizens work side by side. Here, the true genius of Ictinus and Callicrates begins to reveal itself. They are not simply stacking stones, they are weaving an optical illusion of unprecedented complexity. To the naked eye, the Parthenon appears to be a structure of perfectly straight lines and right angles. This is a deliberate, brilliant lie. The architects understand a fundamental flaw in human perception. If a massive structure is built with perfectly straight lines, the sheer weight and scale of it will cause the human eye to perceive it as sagging in the middle. The building will look weak, depressed, heavy. Ictinus refuses to allow the house of Athena to look burdened. Therefore, there are virtually no straight lines in the Parthenon. The stylobate, the massive marble platform upon which the columns rest, is not flat, it is imperceptibly domed. From the corners to the center of the short sides, it rises exactly 2 3/8 inches. On the long sides, it rises 4 5/16 inches. The stonemasons must cut every single block of the massive foundation with a microscopic taper to accommodate this invisible curve. Let that sink in.
Using only plumb bobs, square sets, and the naked eye, they execute a 3-dimensional mathematical curve over an area of 23,000 square feet. Then come the columns. 46 massive Doric pillars form the outer colonnade. They are not perfect cylinders. They employ a subtle swelling in the middle known as entasis. It is as if the columns are taking a deep breath, flexing their stone muscles to support the crushing weight of the roof. Furthermore, the columns do not stand perfectly vertical. They lean inward. The corner columns lean inward in 2 directions simultaneously. It has been calculated that if you were to project the lines of the columns upward into the sky, they would meet exactly 1 mile above the center of the temple. They form a massive, invisible pyramid. This inward inclination gives the building a feeling of tremendous stability, anchoring it firmly to the earth while simultaneously pulling the viewer's eye up toward the heavens. Every single column drum, weighing tons, must be carved with a unique asymmetrical taper. They are not interchangeable. Each piece is a bespoke component designed for one highly specific location in this colossal stony organism. The precision of the joints is horrifying. The Athenians do not use mortar. Mortar is seen as a crutch for inferior builders. Instead, they grind the joining surfaces of the marble blocks against each other with an abrasive mixture of sand and water until the fit is so absolute, so microscopically perfect that a human hair cannot be slipped between the massive stones. To hold them together against the violent earthquakes that plague the region, they carve intricate cavities into the center of the blocks. Into these cavities, they drop H-shaped iron clamps. But iron rusts, and rust expands, which would shatter the marble. So, in a stroke of metallurgical genius, they pour molten lead around the iron clamps. The lead seals the iron from the air, preventing rust, while simultaneously acting as a flexible shock absorber during seismic tremors. The building is designed to flex and breathe with the trembling earth. But a perfectly engineered shell is nothing without its soul. That is the domain of Phidias. While the masons carve the columns, Phidias and his massive team of sculptors attack the decorative elements with a fervor bordering on madness. There are 92 metopes, square marble panels running around the exterior of the temple. Each one is carved in high relief, depicting mythical battles, gods against giants, Greeks against Amazons, Lapiths against centaurs. These are not merely decorative, they are aggressive political propaganda. They represent the triumph of Athenian order, reason, and civilization over the forces of chaos, barbarism, and the Persian threat. Inside the outer colonnade runs the frieze, a continuous band of sculpture over 500 feet long, carved in low relief. In an act of staggering civic arrogance, it does not depict a myth. It depicts the Athenians themselves. It is the Panathenaic procession, the great festival honoring Athena. Hundreds of figures, horses, chariots, musicians, and water carriers are carved with such breathtaking realism that the marble seems to pulse with blood. The drapery of the clothing clings to the bodies, revealing the muscular anatomy beneath. It is a mirror held up to the city, immortalizing their golden age in stone. In the pediments, the massive triangular gables at the ends of the roof, colossal freestanding sculptures are hoisted into place. The east pediment shows the miraculous birth of Athena, springing fully armed from the split skull of Zeus. The west pediment depicts the violent contest between Athena and Poseidon for the patronage of the city. These statues, suspended nearly 50 feet in the air, are carved with exquisite detail completely in the round, even on their backs, which no human eye would ever see once they were placed in the pediment. When asked why he spent countless hours perfecting the unseen backs of the sculptures, Phidias allegedly replied, "Because the gods can see them." All of this, however, is merely the setting for the jewel. The ultimate purpose of the Parthenon is to house the colossal cult statue of Athena Parthenos, designed by Phidias himself. It stands in the dark, cavernous cella, the inner sanctuary. It is 39 feet tall. It is chryselephantine, made of an intricately carved wooden armature, covered entirely in plates of pure ivory for the goddess's skin, and solid gold for her armor and robes. Over a ton of gold is hammered into the plates. The sheer cost is unfathomable. It is the gold reserve of the Athenian Empire, physically attached to a wooden frame, designed to be removable in times of financial crisis. She stands as a terrifying vision of martial power. In her right hand, she holds a life-sized statue of Nike, the winged goddess of victory. Her left hand rests on a massive shield, behind which coils a giant serpent. Her eyes are inset with precious gems that gleam in the dim light. To maximize the visual impact, Phidias designs a shallow rectangular pool in the floor, directly in front of the statue. He fills it with a dark, reflective liquid, likely olive oil. This pool serves a dual purpose. The oil helps to maintain the humidity in the dry Athenian air, preventing the delicate ivory plates from cracking, while simultaneously acting as a dark mirror. When the massive wooden doors of the temple are opened, the harsh Mediterranean sunlight hits the dark oil and bounces upward, illuminating the colossal gold and ivory statue from below with a supernatural shimmering glow. It is designed to drop the viewer to their knees in pure, unadulterated awe. For 15 grueling years, the mountain is hollowed out. The ox carts groan, the chisels sing, the fortunes of an empire are drained. In 432, the Parthenon is officially completed. The scaffolding is stripped away. The scent of 1,000 burning sacrifices fills the air.
The citizens of Athens look up at the rock, and the trauma of the Persian ashes is finally overwritten. In its place stands a structure that defies the limits of human capability. It gleams blindingly white in the sun, its upper sculptures painted in vibrant, garish hues of red, blue, and gold. It is perfect. It is the absolute pinnacle of classical civilization. But the irony of the Parthenon is as bitter as it is profound. This monument to eternal order, rationality, and imperial dominance is completed on the absolute brink of total chaos. The immense wealth and arrogance required to build it have terrified and alienated the rest of the Greek world. Even as the final touches of gold are applied to the statue of Athena, the political storm clouds are gathering. Within a year of its completion, the Peloponnesian War erupts. It is a suicidal, decades-long conflict between Athens and Sparta that will tear the Greek world apart. The brilliant Pericles, the mastermind of the Golden Age, will soon watch from the walls as Spartan armies ravage the countryside. He will succumb to a horrifying plague that sweeps through the overcrowded, besieged city, dying in agony alongside tens of thousands of his citizens. The genius Phidias will not live to see the end either. He will be accused by Pericles' political enemies of embezzling gold from the great statue he created, cast into prison, and die in disgrace. The empire that built the temple will shatter, but the temple itself will endure. It will stand as a defiant, mathematical ghost of a fleeting moment in human history when a traumatized city decided to conquer the ashes by demanding perfection from the stone. It is a testament to the terrifying power of human ambition, a story written not just in marble, but in blood, sweat, and the absolute refusal to be erased by the fires of history. The construction of the Parthenon is the story of how an empire turned a graveyard into a mirror, forcing eternity to reflect its own impossible, doomed brilliance.